Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about one of my newer favorite large-ish income-focused positions that I've been building up consistently over the last year. I'm talking about the NEOS NASDAQ 100 High Income ETF, or ticker symbol QQQI, which offers a similar strategy to many other cover call style income generating ETFs, but does so a little bit better in my opinion. We're going to break down exactly what this ETF is, how it works, its performance since inception, and then later on I'm going to share with you guys how many shares of QQQI I currently hold throughout my portfolio and how much income that's currently generating me on a monthly basis. So I promise you, if you're an income or dividend focused investor, you're definitely going to want to stick around until the end. If you are a dividend investor who wants to level up your portfolio, you need to be tracking your dividend income consistently. And that's why I created the perfect dividend tracker that I've used to scale my dividend income up to all-time highs over the last year. Now, along with this dividend tracker, you're also going to receive my A to Z dividend investing ebook, which shows you how I personally started from $0 several years ago to now where I earn over $7,500 per month in dividends. So if you want this tracker and the ebook, go to the first link down below in my description and grab it today. Now, to get right into it, going over some of the basics when it comes to this ETF in case you guys maybe haven't heard of it or maybe you just haven't looked at it super in depth. So again, the NEOS ETF QQQI is known as the NASDAQ 100 High Income ETF, and like you guessed, it utilizes the NASDAQ 100, but along with that, with options, offers a ton of income potential consistently. Now, first off, this ETF says high monthly income generation. It says QQQI aims to generate high monthly income by investing in the constituents of the NASDAQ 100 index and implementing a data-driven call option strategy. Now, number two, it says tax efficiency, which again is probably going to be very important to you if you are an income-focused investor, because what's better than getting paid dividends or distributions, especially when they're tax efficient? It says with QQQ using NDX index options classified as Section 1256 contracts, which are 60% long-term and 40% short-term capital gains, and fund managers may seek to take advantage of tax loss harvesting opportunities. Now, next, also very important and another main reason why I personally am very bullish on this ETF and why I think it could be a great income-oriented ETF for 2025 and even further. It says this ETF aims to capture a portion of the NASDAQ 100's upside when the index rises. Now, although there's lots of other high income-oriented cover call style ETFs across the market, like I said, the NEOS ETF such as QQQI or SPYI does so a little bit better because they try to capture some of the upside, and this is because this ETF at times is going to be buying and also selling NDX options. Now, this means that even if the market trades sideways or slightly down, this ETF is probably going to earn a ton of premium and a ton of consistent income for us investors. But also when the market turns green, because this ETF is at times going to be buying into NDX options, this could also allow us investors to have some potential to seek some upside. Now, some more about the ETF. The expense ratio, total expense ratio is 0.68%, so it is about double that of JEPQ. So that's something to keep in mind. The expense ratio is sort of expensive, but this fund has a lot of active management involvement. Now, the ETF's only been trading since about late January of this year, so we don't have all that much time frame to go off of as far as historical data, but I'm going to share with you everything that we've seen so far. Now, something else you'll probably notice, which is right front and center, is the distribution rate for QQQI of 14.17% distribution rate. This is a massive amount of yield, and much more yield than you're probably going to get across the market, even comparing this one to other NASDAQ 100 products. Now, with a 14% yield, more or less, the next question is, well, how much does that equate to as far as distributions consistently? And of course, are the distributions, or have they been consistent? Now, first off, I will say the distributions from QQQI have been very consistent since inception, anywhere from around the high 50s to the low 60-cent range. More or less a 60-cent payout is sort of what I expect now consistently. And for an ETF that costs somewhere in the low 50s as of right now, that's a massive amount of income to be earned, especially if you take into consideration the distribution rate and look at a few different figures. Take a $10,000 investment, for example. A $10,000 investment is going to earn you, at least based off of the current distribution rate, around $1,400 per year. A $10,000 investment could generate you well over $100 per month, which is insane. So even though we talked about how this ETF works more or less, some of the main objectives and properties, and even how much this ETF is paid every single month to investors like myself, another very important aspect to any higher yielding or income focused ETF or stock for that matter is how is the ETF or stock performed as far as price return goes. Just looking at the share price of the ETF or stock. Now, I say this because a lot of times in the past, I personally have been burned off of different higher yielding stocks and ETFs, buying into them, maybe for some income potential, but then they trade down to the right in NAV decay, which is never a fun time. But for QQQI, at least so far since inception, the ETF is up over 7%. And honestly, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Even since inception, if this ETF traded up 1 or 2 or 3% with a 14% more or less yield, I really completely honest do not care if this ETF trades completely sideways forever. Obviously, any upside from here is going to be sort of a bonus. As long as this ETF pays around 60 cents per share per month, honestly, I'm happy with that. But so far, just like JEPQ, for example, this ETF has paid out a massive amount of income to investors consistently, but also traded up into the right, which is very promising. discussing. Now, before I go through and share with you guys how many shares of QQQI I have in my portfolio, my plan for 2025, and how much I'm currently earning as far as income goes, if we were to compare QQQI to JEPQ just for fun, for example, and look at 0.87 years, which is how long this ETF has been trading for so far, look at a $10,000 investment and reinvested dividends along the way, both of these ETFs are basically neck and neck. So QQQI has returned around 25.2% over this time frame, and JEPQ is at around 25.42%. Now, I have to be completely honest, across the dividend investing or income investing community, JEPQ is sort of looked at as one of the kings. So the fact that QQQI, at least so far since inception, has basically returned the same amount as one of the kings, I would give that an A+ in my book. Now, lastly, for those of you guys that are curious on how many shares of QQQI I currently have across my portfolios, I currently have around 250 shares more or less at around a $50 cost basis. Now, with these 250 or so shares, that means I currently earn somewhere of around $135, $140 per month in income, so nothing absolutely insane, but still, for a relatively small position compared to the rest of my portfolio, that's a massive amount of income. And the fact that I don't necessarily have massive NASDAQ 100 exposure, I do think and I do plan on buying a lot more QQQI over the next year or so. And if you guys have watched any of my recent videos, you'll see that I have been buying some even as recent as in the last 30 or so days. Now, how big of a position do I plan to build this out in the next year or so? I probably hope to get to around 500 or so shares and then keep diversifying into other funds, other stocks from there. But regardless, from what I've seen so far when it comes to the NEOS NASDAQ 100 high income ETF, or really any ETF more or less from NEOS, I've been seeing some good performance, some high quality strategy taking place, and I really love the fact that this ETF offers the potential for high income, some upside potential along with that, but also doing so very tax efficiently. So now that we went through QQQI, I shared with you guys what this ETF is, how the ETF works, the performance it's had historically, and even stacking it next to JEPQ, which is the king of income-oriented ETFs. I want to lastly hear from you guys down below in the comments. Is the NEOS NASDAQ 100 high income ETF personally in your portfolio as of right now? Let me know yes or no in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.